really be this quick, can it? We tested an Expedition Platinum with 4WD, and it accelerated from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.9 seconds. That's almost a second quicker than a comparable Chevy Tahoe. The Expedition is responsive and easy to drive when you aren't burying the accelerator into the ground too. The brake pedal is slightly squishy when you first press on it, but ultimately it's pretty easy to come to smooth stops, which is the important part. The steering has a light effort and helps to make this Expedition feel a little less humongous. While you won't likely be driving your Expedition with Secret Service-like urgency, there are some pretty admirable qualities here for such a large SUV. It's no Mercedes GLS, but this does not feel clumsy. The Expedition's front seats are comfy and cushy. They have multiple zones of lumbar support and even have a massage function in the higher trims. The second row seats are also decently plush. The third row seating is firm but still adequate for adult use. The Expedition's ride quality is pretty smooth too. We were less impressed by the Expedition's climate control. The airflow from the vents is noisy and not particularly strong. The seat heaters also might disappoint if you really like them to get hot. On the upside, the Expedition is impressively quiet on the highway and around town. How's the interior? The Expedition makes full use of its interior space. It's roomier than the Chevy Tahoe and gives every passenger ample room and comfort. The third row's accessibility is particularly impressive, allowing even adults to get in and out without much more effort than it takes to sit in the second row. The center console is a bit button-heavy. It's not immediately user-friendly, but it doesn't require too much time to master. It's a simpler layout than the Tahoe's too. Visibility out of the front is hampered by the massive windshield pillars. But even though the rear window looks to be a mile away, a clear backup camera and available 360-degree camera system take the edge off backing up. Ford's Sync infotainment system has come a long way over the years, and the newest iteration is pretty user-friendly. The navigation system does look a bit dated but offers pinch-to-zoom functionality, helping to make it quick and easy to use. Our test vehicle's 12-speaker Bang & Olufsen audio system made good use of the Expedition's large cabin, providing both power and clarity. The voice controls are basic and can help with simple functions. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay smartphone integration systems come standard with wireless connectivity. The Expedition's advanced driver aids, such as adaptive cruise control, work fine but aren't quite as full-featured as those in some rival SUVs. The Expedition has a listed cargo capacity of 20.9 cubic feet behind the third row, 57.5 cubic feet behind the second row and 104.6 cubes max. That's less space than its direct rival, the Chevy Tahoe. But the Expedition's extra spaces for all your knickknacks, plus its flexible seating arrangement, more than compensate. The Expedition is also a good vehicle for hauling little kids around. It has easy-to-access anchors for safety seats plus lots of room to fit rear-facing seats. Towing capacity is great with a maximum capacity of 9,300 pounds when properly equipped. The Expedition gets an EPA estimated 19 miles per gallon in combined city/highway driving. That's similar to what the EPA posts for other large SUVs. But we had difficulty matching the EPA's numbers in our real-world testing. Something else to consider is that premium fuel is required to get the quoted power numbers. During our time with the Expedition, we could notice a difference in performance between regular and premium fuel. The Expedition is priced comparable to other large SUVs such as the Chevy Tahoe. Warranty coverage is also typical for a non-luxury automaker. Interior build quality and materials choices slightly exceed what's available from its crosstown rivals. The Expedition isn't fun to drive in the classic sense, but it is rewarding to summon its muscle car-like torque and use this big SUV for its intended purposes. Road trips, daily commuting and heading out to the great outdoors are all right up the Expedition's alley. The mid-range limited trim gets our recommendation in the Expedition lineup. It adds convenience and luxury items such as a hands-free liftgate, leather upholstery, premium audio, adaptive cruise control and a navigation system to justify the cost increase. It's also eligible for a more powerful engine and sports suspension as part of the Stealth Performance package. The 2023 Ford Expedition is a large 3-row SUV that's available in 6 trim levels: XL, XLT, Timberline, Limited, King Ranch and Platinum.
Tested, 2023 Cadillac Lyriq AWD pumps out more electrons, keeps its composure. A second motor and more power make Caddy's all-electric SUV quicker, but haven't changed its cushy personality. Just a couple of years ago, the notion of a 500 horsepower Cadillac would inevitably have conjured up visions of something with a V badge on its deck lid and a Blackwing engine rumbling menacingly behind its grille. No more. The 2023 Cadillac Lyriq AWD exemplifies how the EV revolution has turned ideas about performance upside down. Like many of today's EVs, this twin-motor, 500 horsepower version of the Lyriq is powerful and quick but otherwise extraordinarily normal. It doesn't look like a car that promises to smoke its tires into the next state and doesn't drive like one either. Instead, it evokes and updates the best aspects of Cadillac's past, their smooth ride, hushed, well-dressed cabins, and effortless power. Thank you, electrons. Other than the model number on the hatch, Lyriq AWDs get a 600 × 10 to the power of 4 designation, while RWD models were 450E badging. The 600 and 450 represent rounded torque figures in Newton meters. There's nothing to indicate that the dual-motor, all-wheel drive Lyriq is any different from the rear-drive, single-motor model that first hit the market. We liked that car for its absorbent ride and quiet ways, but felt it needed more than its 340 horsepower to be a fully realized caddy. The Lyriq AWD solves that with a second permanent magnet motor driving the front wheels. Combined output rises to 500 horses and 450 pound-feet of torque, an increase of 160 ponies and 125 pound-feet over the rear driver. That you can't tell the twin-motor model from the single-motor version at first glance, or second or third, amounts to truth in advertising. Aside from the AWD's extra power, its cushy driving demeanor remains fundamentally unchanged. Stand on the Lyriq AWD's accelerator and it sprints to 60 miles per hour in 4.6 seconds and hauls itself through the quarter mile in 12.9 seconds at 113 miles per hour, improvements of 1.1 seconds to 60 miles per hour and 1.4 seconds and 14 miles per hour in the quarter. That should be energetic enough for most people, but it's only mid-pack in the EV universe. A Hyundai Ioniq 5, for instance, scoots to 60 miles per hour in 4.5 seconds. At the other end of the size and price spectrum, a nearly 7,000-pound Rivian R1S does it in 3.1, and there are a lot of ballistic EVs sandwiched between those two bookends. The Lyriq's power delivery harks back to the big-engine Cadillacs of yore and seems purposely tuned to underscore its luxury mission. Like the Lyriq RWD, the AWD's powertrain parses out the torque smoothly and gradually rather than bringing it on all at once with a bang like some competitors. Maximum thrust doesn't arrive until 40 or 50 miles per hour. The progressive pull is an integral part of the Lyriq's soft-spoken personality, as is the barely audible synthesized hum that accompanies acceleration. The cabin is as quiet as an isolation tank, registering just 63 decibels of interior sound as the Lyriq whooshes through the atmosphere at 70 miles per hour. A plush, composed ride nails the other signature Cadillac personality trait. The multi-link suspension glides over big pavement swells, is glassy on smooth highways, and almost never bobs. The pancake-style 102.0 kWh Ultium battery bolted to the Lyriq's belly, the same capacity as in the rear-drive model, makes for a low center of gravity. That's likely part of the reason the Lyriq feels more agile than you'd expect for a vehicle weighing 5,838 pounds, but the Caddy is far more in its element cruising than chomping up serpentine roads. Cornering grip peaks at a relatively low 0.82 g, and our test cars Michelin Primacy all seasons, 265 divided by 50 are -20s all around, held in protest when leaned on even lightly. The steering is confident but light on feel, and the brake system blends regeneration and hydraulic action smoothly. Given the AWD's mass and all-season rubber, stops from 70 miles per hour are reasonable at 182 feet. 2 levels of Reagan enable one-pedal driving, and a steering wheel paddle delivers maximum Reagan on demand. Our real-world testing exposed the one area where the dual-motor Lyriq suffers compared to its single-motor sibling, range. The EPA estimated range is close between the two, with the single motor at 312 miles and the dual motor coming in at 307. But on our 75 miles per hour highway range test, the rear-drive Lyriq covered 270 miles while the AWD version managed only 220. That's a big enough difference to influence how far you dare to roam. At least recharging won't take inordinately long. Our AWD tester came with the standard 11.5 kW AC charging module. A 19.2 kW onboard charger will be optional for 2024 AWD models and will add up to 51 miles of range per hour from a level 2, 240V AC charger backed by a 100 amp circuit, according to Cadillac. The battery can handle up to 190 kilowatts of DC fast charging, which the company says will replenish the range at a rate of about 77 miles every 10 minutes. For 2023, all Lyrics came only in the luxury trim. The past tense is intentional as the production run of about 2,000 units is sold out for 2023, and Cadillac is now taking orders for 2024 models. So, the only choice buyers had to make was between the two propulsion systems. Since they're on even footing, the dual motor has the same roomy, handsomely designed interior as the single motor. It's a welcoming, luxurious cabin featuring nice lines, handsome leather seating, tasteful brightwork, and good-looking wood. Convenient storage spots abound, but there are also several human-machine interface issues. The 33-inch diagonal curved display that's home to the gauge cluster and many of the car's functions looks slick but forces you to click through several screens to access menus and submenus, controlling everything from the 19-speaker AKG audio system to the standard Google Assistant. Most climate controls are conveniently located in a row of hard buttons in the center stack area, but you must still call up the HVAC menu to sync driver and passenger temperature settings. The door-mounted switches that control front seat massage and lumbar adjustments are fussy. GM's usually excellent Super Cruise hands-free driving system cut out multiple times on a short stretch of interstate for no apparent reason. And we still smile at what look like exterior door handles. They're actually large push buttons for the door's electric latches and are awkward to use. The Lyric offsets those trespasses, and the fact that it doesn't offer such features as heated rear seats or second-row HVAC controls, with a grand slam on value. Our test car stickered for $65,615, which included the loan option of $625 for its stellar black metallic paint. It felt more expensive than that. Better still, the Lyric is eligible for the government's $7,500 EV tax credit, and the price jump from RWD to the more powerful AWD powertrain is a mere $2,000. Those 500 well-mannered horses are worth every penny, as is the EV that comes with them.
2023 Mercedes-Benz GLC 300 Formatage. As goes the Mercedes-Benz C-Class, so goes its sport utility sibling, the GLC Class. Benz's compact executive sedan received a comprehensive makeover for 2022, adding a 48-volt mild hybrid system to the powertrain and overhauling the looks, the cabin, and the tech therein. Now, it's the GLC's turn, and while the 2023 GLC 300 may not look all that different from the outside, it's grown a bit and picked up some notably nicer accoutrements. The 2023 GLC 300 hides its newly envisioned dimensions well in pictures, but it does appear portlier in person. With the wheelbase unchanged at 113.1 inches, and length expanding 2.4 inches to 185.7 inches, all that growth goes right to overhang, an observation our bathroom mirrors are all too familiar with. Luggage capacity is up by nearly 3 cubic feet, to 22 total. Since the wheelbase is unchanged, it shouldn't come as a surprise that front and rear legroom change by just 0.1 inch, the front shorter, rear longer, and feel no different in the new model. A few other dimensions have been massaged to boost aerodynamic slip. The GLC 300's drag coefficient now measures 0.29, an improvement of 0.02 over the outgoing model. Overall height is down 1/10 of an inch, the front track grows by 0.3 inch, and the rear track is nearly a full inch wider than before. Weight is up a fair bit, to 4,406 pounds versus the 4,122 pounds we measured in a 2020 model. Whether it's purchased with rear or all-wheel drive, a $2,000 upcharge, the GLC 300 is now a 48-volt mild hybrid. The integrated starter generator bolts up to a turbocharged 2.0-litre inline-4, producing the same 255 horsepower as before, but torque rises 22 pound-feet to 295. The electric motor can add up to 23 horsepower and 148 pound-feet, but not at peak. That motive force gets routed to the wheels by way of a smooth-shifting 9-speed automatic transmission. With nearly 300 additional pounds of mass being shoved around and only 22 extra pound-feet on tap, the 2023 GLC 300's acceleration suffers, but not by much. The GLC 300 reaches 60 miles per hour in 5.7 seconds, 0.3 second behind the 2020 model. The story's similar in the quarter, with the 2023 model crossing the line in 14.4 seconds at 95 miles per hour, a negligible difference to the 2020's 14.2-second run at 96 miles per hour. These numbers remain superior to the last BMW X330i we tested, and they're about even with the Audi Q5 Some of this comes from the tires, which on the 2020 model had 235 divided by 55 R-19 Pirelli Scorpion Verde, all-season run flats at all four corners. Our 2023 example wears wider, staggered AMG wheels, $850, and rolls on 20-inch Continental Eco Contact 6 summer rubber measuring 255/45 up front and a whopping 285/40 in the rear. That Rubenesque contact patch certainly helps explain our improved skid pad figure of 0.88 G, besting the old GLC's 0.85 G. Not that impressive, though, when accounting for the transition from all-season to summer tires. Mercedes's tweaks to the 2023 GLC Formula boost EPA estimated highway economy to 31 miles per gallon, 3 miles per gallon more than the outgoing model. The GLC 300's newfound electrification also sweetens the SUV's on-road demeanor. This stop-start is among the smoothest on the market, reviving the gas engine with nary a shudder. Under deceleration, it's difficult to notice when the engine shuts off for low-speed coasting. This smoothness extends to the steering, painfully so, as it's devoid of off-center buildup and is just numb all around, and the brakes, which are easy to modulate for consistently smooth stops. The remaining parts of the Merc's driving experience would be best summed up as sport-adjacent. The GLC's standard adaptive dampers keep things nice and smooth over mildly uneven parts of the roadway, and body motions are well controlled, but more dramatic humps and bumps transfer a good bit of motion inside. If we were ordering our own GLC 300, we'd stick with the standard 18-inch wheels, with tires that have thicker sidewalls and should deliver a better ride on Michigan's Martian roadscape. Chuck the GLC into a corner and, sure, it'll lean more than a C-Class, but it stays well sorted and makes a good case for taking the long way back from school drop-off. The four-banger sounds pretty good when you give it the beans too. It's a damn shame about that steering considering how well sorted the rest of this car is. If your commute has more traffic lights than curves, you're in luck, because now you can appreciate just how much better the GLC 300's interior is. The waterfall-like center console shape remains, but the rest has been revamped to match the style found in other Mercedes vehicles, and it works well. Our sample GLC's dashboard was covered in natural grain blackwood with aluminum strips, $200. The steering wheel has been upgraded with a sharper design, but fans of physical buttons will find very few anywhere inside, a point of occasional frustration, as the capacitive directional pads on the steering wheel spokes are way too easy to activate by accident. The panoramic roof, $1,500, features a thinner cross strut too, not that anyone would notice. Do you love screens? Well, the GLC is a modern Mercedes, so you'd better. The old model's deep-gauge binnacle has been trashed in favor of a 12.3-inch display with multiple layouts, and the capability to display a full navigation map. The 11.9-inch standard center touchscreen runs the latest iteration of MBUX infotainment software, which is responsive, sufficiently easy to navigate, and includes wireless smartphone mirroring. The center display will pick up and reflect greasy fingerprints like nobody's business, so take your preschool instruction to heart and wash your hands often. While the GLC 300 4MATIC's $50,250 base price is in line with the segment, things can get expensive in a hurry. We're staring down an as-tested price of $65,950. Some of that comes from the top Pinnacle trim's $4,450 price bump, but standalone options sure aren't cheap either. More aggressive AMG line styling will set you back $3,450. Although the night package's blacked-out trim only adds $200 to the bottom line. The driver assistance package contains all the usual active and passive driver aids for an extra $1,950. Even this specific shade of cardinal red metallic is a hefty $1,750. Despite the bit of sticker shock, the 2023 Mercedes-Benz GLC 300 4MATIC is a strong contender in the Entralux department. Its cabin is vastly improved over its predecessors, while its new hybrid components add a dollop of smoothness to around-town duties. Yet it still can let loose and have a little fun, even with the extra junk in the trunk. Cars are Andrew Croc's jam, along with Boysenberry. After graduating with a degree in English from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in 2009, Andrew cut his teeth writing freelance magazine features, and now he has a decade of full-time review experience under his belt. A Chicagoan by birth, he has been a Detroit resident since 2015. Maybe one day he'll do something about that half-finished engineering degree. 2024 Lamborghini Huracan Starato exits in a cloud of dust. Off-roading in a Lamborghini Huracan isn't anything new to us. We've mowed the lawn at triple-digit speeds through Virginia International Raceway's daunting uphill S's. On another occasion, we ended up behind the guardrail and in the woods of VIR's Patriot course. Don't ask. Those excursions occurred involuntarily. The thought of willingly exiting the tarmac and throwing a Huracan into the dirt is insane. But nothing about the dual-purpose Lamborghini Huracan Starato is rational. What makes the Huracan Starato special? Just look at the thing's bulging fenders, the rally-inspired light pods grafted onto its angular nose, the roof-mounted snorkel and optional luggage rack, and the oddest-looking tires to be fitted to a Huracan. It's clear this is not a typical supercar. The Starato is part Bruce Wayne, but mostly Max Rokitansky. A little touch of class, but all badass, this is the first Lamborghini since the LM002 to wear dirt well. The Starato isn't a byproduct of Porsche transforming the 911 into an off-road buggy with the Dakar. Lamborghini's concept dates back to 2017, when the engineering team, hot on the heels of working on the Urus, realized there was more left in the LP610-4 all-wheel drive platform. Why not fit it with longer electronically controlled dampers and softer springs to provide 1.7 inches more ground clearance than the Evo and softer anti-roll bars to enable more articulation? If you build it, they will come. And they came in droves. The Starato became instantly popular before anyone had driven one. The number that Lamborghini would produce increased again and again, finally reaching 1499, all quickly spoken for despite a $278,972 sticker. It was the end of the Huracan's journey. As in all Hurans that came before it, the heart and soul of the Starato remains the enthralling 5.2-litre V10, which has a furious soundtrack as 10 pistons pump and 40 titanium valves suck and blow air. In the Starato, the V10 generates 602 horsepower, down 29 horses from the same engine in the previous STO and Technica variants. Until now, Hurans have drawn air into the intakes from openings ahead of the rear wheels. To no surprise, when you're kicking up dust and dirt, low air intakes are a terrible idea. Lamborghini's fix is the rooftop snorkel, previously used on the STO to move air through the engine bay and here serving as the Starato's windpipe. Its flow path is more restrictive, resulting in the reduction of horsepower. Driving the Huracan Starato. Sure, the Starato has enhanced approach, breakover, and departure angles, but none of that matters much at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. The off-road wedge obliterates the front straight. Stand on the firm, if a bit sensitive, brake pedal that modulates the standard carbon ceramic brakes, and the Starato, fitted with Bridgestone all-terrain tires, more on those later, twerks its way into Turn 1. The tires beg for mercy under load exiting Turn 3, and Sport Mode allows a copious amount of sideways playfulness. On this day, we'll ignore turning down into Turn 4 and instead flip the steering wheel toggle to Rally Mode and drive off into the sun-baked desert. Willingly plowing the Starato into the sand feels unnatural, but with a left-right twist of the fuzzy steering wheel, the quick, fixed-ratio steering rack is an all-star for setting up a Scandinavian flick. For this model, Lamborghini passed on rear-axle steering as it muddied the vehicle dynamics when paired with the all-terrain tires. Even without it, the brake-based torque vectoring pivots the machine, the earth succumbs, dirt encompasses the six-figure rally car, and with a pull of the big column-mounted shift paddles, the 7-speed dual-clutch automatic snaps off a gear change, the Haldex all-wheel drive system shuffles torque between axles, and the Starato exits, leaving a dust plume reminiscent of the Road Runner. Never had the thought of piloting a Huracan over lumpy terrain in third gear on an 8,500 RPM redline occurred to us, but the softer dampers and spring rates, paired with longer and squishier internal bump stops, keep the uprights from ejecting from the chassis. Find the right, or maybe the wrong, path through the desert and you'll use all 6.4 inches of ground clearance. Dirt will fly over the hood. This isn't the stuff trophy trucks are made of, but for a pavement pounder, it's impressive and hilariously fun. None of this would be possible without the right tires. For that, Lamborghini tasked Bridgestone to develop the dueler all-terrain AT002, An all-terrain tire rated at 168 miles per hour and available only in a Starato fitment. The sidewall construction mimics that of a Bridgestone Potenza Sport summer tire, so it's stiff. Aside from a tread pattern meant to evacuate rocks and mud, the Dueler features interlocking snipes and tie bars to lock the tread blocks together to provide more stability under load. And it's a run flat, so in the event of a puncture, the Starato can carry on for 50 miles at 50 miles per hour. And while some might be tempted to mount 2 spares on the roof rack, it's only rated for £88. Bridgestone will also offer a one-off winter tire for the Starato. Oh, the possibilities. It's not just for off-road. The Starato's off-road capabilities aside, Lamborghini has created quite possibly the best road-going Huracan to date. Its softness makes for an enjoyable ride on the interstate, and with little roar from the all-terrain tires, this is the Huracan you'd want to drive across the country. Attack mountain switchbacks and there's more pitch and roll than any Huracan before it, and the steering is so quick and light that mid-corner corrections frequently occur until you train your hands to slow down. But none of this dulls the experience. Lean on it nice and hard, and the Bridgestones deliver what will likely be the greatest amount of grip we've measured from all-terrain rubber. And those fender flares aren't just for looks. The front and rear tracks have been widened by the 1st of February and the 1st of March inches, respectively, giving the Starato a touch more sure-footedness, other than a digital inclinometer, a pitch and roll display, and GPS coordinates in the central display. The Starato's interior is much the same as any other Huracans. Perhaps one of the coolest features is its ability to sync an Apple Watch and record your heartbeat. And your heart may skip a beat driving the Starato. Even more so than all the Huracan variants that preceded it, this Lamborghini is one wild ride.
2024 Audi Q8 e-tron and Q8 e-tron Sportback go farther, quietly. The Audi Q8 e-tron and its smooth-backed sibling, the Q8 e-tron Sportback, enter 2024 with a new name, more range, more efficient batteries, better aerodynamics, and faster charging. The mechanical changes address customer concerns about range and performance, while the name change, from just plain e-tron to Q8 e-tron, is to give buyers a better sense of where the big two-row SUV sits in the brand's lineup of EV and ICE offerings. Like the gas-powered Q8, the Q8 e-tron sits at the top of the range, a roomy cruiser ready for glamorous day trips or making day-to-day errands feel glamorous. The base model starts at $75,595, and the Sportback Launch Edition we drove, with the dark chrome S-line trim and orange piped leather interior, rings in at $95,395 with options. Q8 e-tron range and charging times. The dark chrome and orange details are hints that the Q8 e-tron is a luxury SUV with a touch of sporty flair. It gets a bit more flair for 2024 with both a redesigned grille and headlights that highlight its slightly wider body. The styling changes also reduce drag, achieved through new wheel designs, shutters in the nose that can open for cooling and close for smooth sailing, and bodywork around the wheel wells that channels the wind. The wind cheating helps the 2024 Q8 e-tron get better range than the 2023 e-tron, an EPA estimated 285 miles for the standard version and 296 miles for the Sportback, 300 miles with the optional Ultra package, up from 225 to 226 miles before. The improved aerodynamics also let the air also pass by with barely a whisper of wind noise, even on the highway. The Audi's improved efficiency isn't just from the aero updates. The Q8 uses 2 motors, and for 2024, the rear motor gets extra windings that allow it to create a stronger magnetic field from the same incoming electricity. The result is more torque and reduced energy consumption. Couple that with a higher capacity battery, 106.0 kWh compared to the outgoing 86.5 kWh pack, and you get more range. Recharging times have also improved. The 2024 Q8 can now take in 170 kilowatts, up from 150 kilowatts, at a DC faster charger and should be able to go from an almost empty 10% battery to a back-in-action 80% in around 31 minutes, according to Audi. For Level 2 home charging, the standard 9.6 kilowatt charger will refill the battery overnight, in about 13 hours, while an optional 19.2 kilowatt setup, an $1,850 upgrade, can do it in half that time, driving the Q8 e-tron. We have to admit we weren't doing charging math while behind the wheel of the Q8 e-tron. In fact, we were somewhat startled to look down after a glorious run through the dappled light of a Northern California redwood forest and realize we had about 40 miles of range left. It's easy to lose track of how far you've gone because the Q8 is so pleasant to drive. It's quick, with a combined 402 horses from its two motors, but not neck-snappingly so. From a stoplight, a foot to the floor would get you to 60 miles per hour in 5.4 seconds, according to Audi, which is middling acceleration by EV standards. And yet it strikes us as just the right amount of power for an SUV of this size, not so fast that you're backing off in a panic if you get a little heavy-shoed, but plenty torquey enough to power out of curves and confidently merge into fast-moving traffic. Changes to the Q8 e-tron steering and suspension improve the driving experience. A quicker ratio of 14.6 to 1 instead of the previous 15.8 to 1 results in a more responsive wheel. The front suspension gets a stiffer bushings, and the adaptive air springs, which offer 3.0 inches of height adjustment, soak up bumps and ruts with aplomb. Along with the suspension settings, the Q8 offers 7 different drive modes, which alter ride height, accelerator response, steering feel, stability control programming, and power delivery. Brake energy regen can be adjusted via paddles on the steering wheel, and the most aggressive setting will just about bring the car to a complete stop. The brake feel is fantastic, with no grabby spots in the pedal travel as the Q8 transitions from regen to friction braking. As is often the case on California's Highway 1, we had to stop several times due to road construction. In the Q8 e-tron Prestige, with its massaging seats, the delay afforded the opportunity to kick back and admire the drifting coastal fog as it floated gently over the panoramic glass roof. Well, during the second stop, we were able to do this. The first one was spent delving through the extensive menus in the 10.1-inch upper display screen to figure out how to turn off the various lane-keeping beeps. For the record, it's in both the settings menu and on the end of the turn signal stalk. The Q8 is screen-heavy, with a second display for climate controls below the main infotainment screen. There's also screen-based instrumentation, and in the Prestige trim we drove, a head-up display. The Q8's interior is much like the exterior, with a design that could be more radical but certainly won't upset anyone. The center console layout doesn't make the best use of space for storage, with cup holders crammed up against the shifter and the vertical phone slot, but there is a left side drawer in the dash that's perfect for parking garage tickets and secret snacks. Human space is excellent, the seats are comfortable both front and rear even in the sloped roof Sportback. Electric vehicles and SUVs lend themselves to comfort and luxury. Audi was wise to recognize that and not attempt to make the Q8 too focused on handling or acceleration. The improved range means less worry about recharging, allowing drivers to relax and enjoy the smooth, quiet ride. 2024 Audi Q8 e-tron and Q8 e-tron Sportback go farther, quietly. The Audi Q8 e-tron and its smooth-backed sibling, the Q8 e-tron Sportback, enter 2024 with a new name, more range, more efficient batteries, better aerodynamics, and faster charging. The mechanical changes address customer concerns about range and performance, while the name change, from just plain e-tron to Q8 e-tron, is to give buyers a better sense of where the big two-row SUV sits in the brand's lineup of EV and ICE offerings. Like the gas-powered Q8, the Q8 e-tron sits at the top of the range, a roomy cruiser ready for glamorous day trips or making day-to-day errands feel glamorous. The base model starts at $75,595, and the Sportback Launch Edition we drove, with the dark chrome S-line trim and orange piped leather interior, rings in at $95,395 with options. Q8 e-tron range and charging times. The dark chrome and orange details are hints that the Q8 e-tron is a luxury SUV with a touch of sporty flair. It gets a bit more flair for 2024 with both a redesigned grille and headlights that highlight its slightly wider body. The styling changes also reduce drag, achieved through new wheel designs, shutters in the nose that can open for cooling and close for smooth sailing, and bodywork around the wheel wells that channels the wind. The wind cheating helps the 2024 Q8 e-tron get better range than the 2023 e-tron. An EPA estimated 285 miles for the standard version and 296 miles for the Sportback, 300 miles with the optional Ultra package, up from 225 to 226 miles before. The improved aerodynamics also let the air also pass by with barely a whisper of wind noise, even on the highway. The Audi's improved efficiency isn't just from the aero updates. The Q8 uses two motors, and for 2024, the rear motor gets extra windings that allow it to create a stronger magnetic field from the same incoming electricity. The result is more torque and reduced energy consumption. Couple that with a higher capacity battery, 106.0 kWh compared to the outgoing 86.5 kWh pack, and you get more range. Recharging times have also improved. The 2024 Q8 can now take in 170 kilowatts, up from 150 kilowatts, at a DC faster charger and should be able to go from an almost empty 10% battery to a back-in-action 80% in around 31 minutes, according to Audi. For Level 2 home charging, the standard 9.6 kilowatt charger will refill the battery overnight, in about 13 hours, while an optional 19.2 kilowatt setup, an $1,850 upgrade, can do it in half that time, driving the Q8 e-tron. We have to admit we weren't doing charging math while behind the wheel of the Q8 e-tron. In fact, we were somewhat startled to look down after a glorious run through the dappled light of a Northern California redwood forest and realize we had about 40 miles of range left. It's easy to lose track of how far you've gone because the Q8 is so pleasant to drive. It's quick, with a combined 402 horses from its two motors, but not neck-snappingly so. From a stoplight, a foot to the floor would get you to 60 miles per hour in 5.4 seconds, according to Audi, which is middling acceleration by EV standards. And yet it strikes us as just the right amount of power for an SUV of this size, not so fast that you're backing off in a panic if you get a little heavy-shoed, but plenty torquey enough to power out of curves and confidently merge into fast-moving traffic. Changes to the Q8 e-tron steering and suspension improve the driving experience. A quicker ratio of 14.6 to 1 instead of the previous 15.8 to 1 results in a more responsive wheel. The front suspension gets a stiffer bushings, and the adaptive air springs, which offer 3.0 inches of height adjustment, soak up bumps and ruts with aplomb. Along with the suspension settings, the Q8 offers 7 different drive modes, which alter ride height, accelerator response, steering feel, stability control programming, and power delivery. Brake energy regen can be adjusted via paddles on the steering wheel, and the most aggressive setting will just about bring the car to a complete stop. The brake feel is fantastic, with no grabby spots in the pedal travel as the Q8 transitions from regen to friction braking. As is often the case on California's Highway 1, we had to stop several times due to road construction. In the Q8 e-tron Prestige, with its massaging seats, the delay afforded the opportunity to kick back and admire the drifting coastal fog as it floated gently over the panoramic glass roof. Well, during the second stop, we were able to do this. The first one was spent delving through the extensive menus in the 10.1-inch upper display screen to figure out how to turn off the various lane-keeping beeps. For the record, it's in both the settings menu and on the end of the turn signal stalk. The Q8 is screen-heavy, with a second display for climate controls below the main infotainment screen. There's also screen-based instrumentation, and in the Prestige trim we drove, a head-up display. The Q8's interior is much like the exterior, with a design that could be more radical but certainly won't upset anyone. The center console layout doesn't make the best use of space for storage, with cup holders crammed up against the shifter and the vertical phone slot, but there is a left side drawer in the dash that's perfect for parking garage tickets and secret snacks. Human space is excellent, the seats are comfortable both front and rear even in the sloped roof Sportback. Electric vehicles and SUVs lend themselves to comfort and luxury. Audi was wise to recognize that and not attempt to make the Q8 too focused on handling or acceleration. The improved range means less worry about recharging, allowing drivers to relax and enjoy the smooth, quiet ride. Beneath the purple skin specific to this commemorative edition 50 jar that celebrates a half-century of BMW's M division, and shared by all M3 competition models, is a stonking 503 horsepower twin-turbo 3.0-litre inline-six. With launch control engaged and the boost holding above 15.0 psi, the quickest ever 3 Series leaps to 30 miles per hour in 1 second. The scoot to 60 miles per hour takes 2.8 seconds, and the quarter-mile passes in 11.0 seconds at 124 miles per hour. All-wheel drive comes standard on the Edition 50 jar and can be had on any other M3 comp for $4,000. It adds roughly 150 pounds to the cab weight, but the additional traction helps the 50 jar clobber its rear drive counterpart by 0.7 and 0.6 second in the 60 miles per hour and quarter-mile drags, respectively. The beauty of the competition's X-Drive mode is that it offers the best of both worlds. All-wheel drive for supercar-grade acceleration and decoupling of the front axle to enable a rear drive mode for power oversteer shenanigans. Moving away from the world of dynamic insanity, when the drive modes are left in their softest comfort settings, the M3 Competition X-Drive is a livable place for daily consumption. The sharpest impacts reverberate up forged 19-inch front and 20-inch rear wheels and through the $4,500 carbon fiber buckets. The super supportive seats are somewhat tricky to enter and exit yet provide a surprising amount of comfort. As with all 2023 3 Series, the M3's interior is treated to BMW's curved display that incorporates a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and a 14.9-inch touchscreen infotainment system. The iDrive 8 operating system replaces most of the physical buttons for the HVAC and radio controls with a not-so-intuitive infotainment menu structure. Fortunately, iDrive 8.5 rolls out this summer, and BMW promises to solve these teething issues by improving the layout. Perhaps the fact that this 5-seat sleeper returned 27 miles per gallon on our 75 miles per hour fuel economy test is enough to forgive iDrive's shortcomings. More on the BMW M3 starting at $83,595, the M3 Competition X-Drive delivers astounding performance for the money. The Edition 50 jar comes standard with a carbon fiber splitter and decklid spoiler, titanium tailpipes trimmed with carbon fiber, M Sport seats, a 50 jar specific carry-on suitcase, the executive and parking assist packages, adaptive LED headlights with laser light, wireless device charging, an M Shadowline trim, swelling the Windows sticker to $96,695. The only extra cost options are the aforementioned carbon fiber seats and carbon ceramic brakes. But its time at the top of the 3 Series hierarchy will be limited. The lighter 2024 cubic meters CS with an extra 40 horses and Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires arrives in the second half of this year. Whether the CS's $36,100 upcharge is an economically sound decision remains unknown, but it'll certainly contest the throne.